sir.
You're good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Conservative Leaders Forum. I know there was a lot of competition for things to do this evening, and I appreciate you being out there with us. We'd like to call upon Hyatt Ives to give the opening prayer. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you for giving us this opportunity to come together this evening to exercise our political freedom. Bless the candidates as they go forward. Bless each of us in supporting them, and bless all of us in your service. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. Russell Messler will give the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag.
Harry Brown will be the American Pledge of Allegiance.
Please repeat the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, Russell Messler, you can text.
On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Please be seated. This is our agenda for this evening. That's all you need to see about it. These are our speakers this evening. And our first speaker up is Mono Deya. Yay! Timing was good. This gentleman right here is our timekeeper.
Yes.
He'll be giving you signals.
1 minute to go. How long does he get?
He has 9 minutes.
9 minutes. Okay, so
That doesn't mean I'm number one.
No.
you're number one too.
Yeah, and then you got a
First of all, thank you all for having us, or having me here today. I've spoken here, I think, twice now. It's an honor. I get to see new faces each time I come. Some I've seen before, and some are very new. So I only have a few minutes, so let me just kind of run through a little bit of why I'm running, who I am, and what matters to me. I grew up in this district, 133. Raise your hand if you're 133. I know a few. So there not very many people here from 133. We're going to speak to you as though you were, to tell all your friends in 133. So I grew up in this district, had a great childhood, great experience. My folks were, they fled communist Cuba. My 2 older brothers. I'm the youngest of 5 sons. You know, we're one of those families, like so many others, that just really appreciated and got this this Texas miracle, this American dream. Educated all 5 of us, all college degrees, 3 postgraduate degrees. It's been a blessing, and our district has been a blessing to us. They have embraced us, and we've been able to thrive. Met my beautiful bride in high school, came back, and raised our kids in the same schools we went to. So that's kind of a brief, short story of where I came from and kind of where I'm from. The reason I bring that story up is because there's a little contrast, and when you see and hear from your parents the country they lost and why they lost it. You can call it communism, socialism, extreme government overreach. You get a contrast growing up that is different than most folks that are here generationally. And you know, we knock on a lot of doors, and the doors of the Venezuelans we knock on, it's pretty remarkable what you hear about their stories, and how much they love and appreciate this country. So fast forward, I go get a law degree, I come back, start my career. I've been practicing law for 30 years. I've got a 10-lawyer firm here in town. We do commercial business disputes, litigation, domestically, internationally, and that's also been a blessing. Raised my 3 sons here. My youngest is a senior in high school, and again, this community has just been wonderful. Hugely involved in our school district, from our sports association. My first job in 6th grade was chalking the fields at SBMSA. And I'm still on the board, and I coached 15 years of youth football in between. School district, really involved in our school district. Whether it's long range planning committee, bond committee, finance committee, we've been hugely involved in that part of our community as well. But our passion, my passion, has been what I've been doing the last 10 or dozen years. And that is this. How can I get involved as I see this creep into our community, this socialist creep, this kind of brainwashing creep, this anti-American creep. Some call it this, let's be a little bit more like Europe creep. And so I get involved in a number of ways where my skills and my passions are. And here's a few areas where I've gotten involved. I currently chair the Hispanic Republicans of Texas, really helping grow the party through that organization statewide. We've grown tremendously over the last few years, and mark my words, this November we'll see 50% plus one vote statewide Republican here in this state, first time ever. So mark your words. And we've had the privilege to work with a lot of great organizations. Some are in Houston that are working along the same way, and we work really well together. Second is kind of the business organizations. The C Club of Houston, I had a lot of leadership roles there, been actively involved for 10 years, worked on some significant policy issues during my president year. One was the Houston pension reform that had to go through the legislature. We were very active in that effort as well. Whether it's registering voters, last election cycle I was involved in the largest conservative voter registration effort in Texas. Registered over 150,000 conservative voters across the state, working focused on keeping the House red, and we had some success in doing that. Also last cycle, there's this thing called election integrity. I don't know if you've heard of that. But we had something like that happen. And we had in Harris County our Democrat county clerk firing our Republican poll workers in Democrat heavy areas. And after the third or fourth was done, I get a call that says we need help. Within 2 days we put a team together, we file a writ of mandamus. After we file it, they don't fire anyone else during early voting. I'll tell you legally, the writ of mandamus wasn't terribly successful, but it achieved its purpose. We do have a 5-4 bent against us in court of appeals, by the way. So rewind a little bit. When Governor Abbott asked me to be on the board of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas Board of Criminal Justice, the prison system, I said yes. I was in 2017. I chaired the Business and Finance Committee. This agency is a $3.5 billion agency. It's the back end of public safety. We work on recidivism, making sure folks, when they're released, don't come back. So that's that part of public safety. The prison system, again, TDCJ is also involved in Operation Lone Star. We've converted 3 of our prisons to state jails, helping these border counties on this fight on the border that we're all hearing about all the time. Again, I'm going to go through one more issue and then get to the future. A couple of years ago, the Trump administration asked me to serve as an arbitrator. I'm one of 10 arbitrators that serve on the USMCA arbitration panel. So we adjudicate disputes, Mexico, Canada, U.S. trade disputes. And we're teed up to do one later this year. So that's a little bit about my history, what matters to me, and what I've been involved in. Let's talk about the future. The problems of Texas today are different, at least the front ones, the top level ones, are different than they were 5 or 10 years ago. 5 or 10 years ago, we weren't talking about the border like we are today. 5 or 10 years ago, we weren't talking about the school indoctrination like we are today. 5 or 10 years ago, we weren't talking about crime like we are today. So things are fluid and things are changing. And we have to act on the things that are an emergency now. And the emergencies that are happening right now are just that. It is, we have crime that's out of control in a lot of areas. Some neighborhoods don't see it as much. Many neighborhoods see it a lot more. And it's important. And there's stuff at the legislature that we can do to help that. One is to pass a resolution to keep the most violent criminals in jail without bail, and to give the judges discretion to do that. That failed at the House this last time. It failed because of the we need to get this passed this next time. We need to have partners with our county commissioners, with our county courts, to make sure that we have bail reform in a way that makes sense, that actually does have a chance of keeping those violent folks in jail. The border. Texas has to do what is necessary to protect our border. We have to do it. It's not a matter of does it cost too much. Hopefully it's a temporary problem. We'll get a new federal government that comes fix it. But until then, we need to go and do what we need to do to protect our borders. We need to not indoctrinate our kids in school. Now that our eyes are open, seeing what's happening in schools, we've had a lot of good legislation. Now we have to enforce it. We need to keep our foot on the gas on that. Who am I? I've got 30 seconds probably. Who am I? I'm someone that cares deeply about our community and about our state. I'm passionate about what we need to do to make our state better. We have been the tip of the spear, the example of this country for decades. We can't tread water. We have to be better. So goes Texas, so goes the country. And in Texas, we need to be that tip of the spear so we can lead these other states in the path of making sure that we have this country be the country it's been for my family and that we want to have for our kids. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next for Harris County Judge, Vidal Martinez.
Thank you. I just came from Morgan's Point. If you know where that is, it's all the way to Barber's Cut in Seabrook. Tim, good to see you. Shelley, Alex, Johnny. This tonight is the 100th event that I've been at since September, and we've come to know each other pretty well during these times. I'm gonna give you, and I've spoken to this group before, so I'm not gonna tell you a bunch about me. If you want it, you can go over there. You probably already know the resume. I'm talking about the snapshot of Harris County, the top, take a 10,000 view and come down from there. 4.7 million in this county. There's 6 counties that touch us, which makes about a $7.5 million, population around here. And for 44 years, in the 4.7 million that are in Harris County, 2.2 about are in the city. There's a smattering of Republicans there. But it was the donut around the city of today, 2.5 million, that had 44 years of county judges, 3 county judges in a row. Judge Lindsay, Eccles, and then Emmett. During that time period, when the sweep came in 2018, we were just right under $4 billion. And in 3 years, in 2 months, 3 years and 3 months, we are now right hovering just over $8 billion. So this, in just that time period, basically they've doubled your budget around here. If you take a look at what population, cost of living, and what the normal growth pattern should be, we should be somewhere between 5 and 6. And there's a lot of things that we can go after and take a look. But it hasn't been a very good couple of months for the Democratic administration. Well, last year it starts out with the Astrodome, and they try to kick the firefighters and the police under the bus, and it was the county's security plan when all those people died at the Astrodome. Then we can't even seem to find an election administrator that could run an election around here. 254 counties in Texas, all 253 got their election results in that night. Not us. We had to wait till Tuesday, late Tuesday. Oh, and then we found 10,000 votes on Saturday. Really? After this brand new elections administrator and all that. Then we have the Texas Rangers raiding our county government offices. And now 3 people have been indicted out of Judge Hidalgo's office. No, it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. Then we lose 280 prisoners, 2 weekends ago, and can't find them because of our great computer program. It just goes on and on and on. And now we're the murder capital of the United States. This has not been a great run for this administration so far. what's gonna happen to us? Security, public safety is our number one job for any elected official, any of us. And what's happening right now? Murder rate. We also have, and this thing you better pay attention to, remember the word Title 42. We already have 90,000 or so amnesty illegals that are here in Harris County. They're being supported. We are a sanctuary county, folks. You and I are paying for it. They get free housing, they get free food stamps, free health, they get a cell phone, they get Metro bus passes, and they can't work. And the asylum and then we pay $10 million for their lawyers. That's what we're doing, and they're percolating right now. These are not good people, many of them. It's the gangs that came to Houston because they had other gang members here. We got a lot of Central Americans here. And the Latino community is just going bonkers right now because you got a bunch of family members that are out there with this percolating in their communities. Now, they don't know if their husbands are coming home or their kids are getting in trouble. It's a problem. I have a vision, and it starts next January. I have a vision of Harris County without a bail bond reform plan that has cost us 100 million people, caused our murder capital of the United States, and multiple bond felons out. I have a vision of Harris County without an elections administrator or any of her department, and giving it back to Stan Stanner, where he ran it just fine. I have a vision that we should not be the lowest paid sheriff's department in any big county, and we should give them the second half of what Ed Emmett promised them. And curiously, Adrian Garcia was the sheriff before, and for 3 years plus now, he hasn't given them the second half of their raise. A third of the 5,000 sheriff's department is gone. I have a vision of us with our $9 billion now back for the I-45 expansion. Cancel that lawsuit with the state. Get our money back for us. Don't try to negotiate your social metrics on something that took 20, 30 years to get. I have a vision of the Latino vote becoming all of a sudden conservative, Republican, mainstay vote. Why do I say that? The Latino community is the largest in the state, 3.2 million in this area. What happened is the Democrats left them. Latino population is they're conservative, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, capitalist, business-oriented, small business, every nuclear family unit, everything that is a conservative, and all of a sudden, the Democrats all of a sudden left them and crashed their agenda, their social, woke, progressive, CRT, BLM agenda, all the way into that left wall. And the Hispanics are going, that's not us. This election, we have the ability to go into that community, and that's gonna be with the Republican donut. We need 5 to 10 points of the Latino vote permanently to come in here. And then, I have a vision on a DA that actually has has the DAs that she says she needs. She wants 60. We'll put her on our plan. We'll give you a fourth of that, 15. Then we'll see how much of the 135,000 backlog you reduce, and then we'll talk about it 90 days later. And then I have a vision of a possible, and it's possible, folks, if the Latino community, which are not happy with Adrian Garcia, and they're all mostly in precinct 2, if we can get one of the commissioners from there, do you realize what happens with the 4-1 court? The first meeting will convene. The second meeting in January, you will have the votes to reduce your property rates. Now get that. It's already capped right now, and it's somewhere hovering. Estimates are it's between 2.4 and 2.5. But if you have 4-1, it's a matter of a 4-1 vote to reduce it 20% or 30%. We have to find out where all the money. Where did we go from $4 billion to $8 billion? There's a lot of loose money out there. But just in the bond settlement that we're not going to follow anymore, there was $100 million that we spent. We'll find the money. We'll get the raises. That's a vision I have for Harris County. We are better than this. There's going to be 3 people. Alex and I are lucky. The 7.5 million people in our area, 4.7 in Harris County, only 1 of 3 people are going to gavel in as the county judge on January 3rd. Pick things that I've gotten the chance to do around here in the transportation area, or in the health area, or in the legal area where I was a federal prosecutor and state bar chairman, or port commissioner, or on the Methodist board. I've been around, I've been proud to help build this community. I want to represent you, and you're the persons that are doing the employment interview for the three of us. Let's go do this, let's do it right. Thank you all for being here today.
Our next speaker is from C7 Congressional District, Tim Stroud.
I know that guy. I'm going to start with a statement and then I'll end with the same statement because it's going to be very apropos to what we're talking about today. It's the scalpel versus the sword. When I was a combat medic in the United States Army, I saw too quickly when I was in Germany, Kosovo, Kuwait, and Iraq, when we would go in with a sword and we would unsheath it and just slice through our enemy. But once we did that, then we had to go street by street, house by house, of making sure who was our ally and who was our enemy. That is no different than where we are sitting with our Republican Party today. I'll end with that. For those who don't know me, thank you so much. By the way, how many veterans do we have in our room? Give them a round of applause. For It's very important to me because I grew up in a military household. My grandfather served in the Air Force. My father served in the Army, and then he served as a police officer in his community. Sadly, 18 months into his service, he gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I was 5 years old, and my uncle had to lift me up so I could look in the casket and say goodbye to my father. I saw how quickly my life could change, but I also saw how beautiful a community could be, of how you could choose your family. And after I served in the military, I came down to Texas. The Army was nice enough to drop me off at Fort Hood. I liked the area. I fell in love with people. I saw people that would do things for their neighbors, whether they knew them or not, and put themselves out to make sure that they felt welcome. But let's go a little bit back than that. 1993, April 19th. Do you guys remember what happened in Waco? Branch Davidian. We had a really tough time in the United States. April 19th, which is today. 2 years after that, Timothy McVeigh bombed Oklahoma City because of what happened in retribution to Waco. I saw what our country was doing. We were tearing ourselves apart. I got tired of griping about it and looked around for somebody to make a solution. So I joined the military, and that's when I got active in the community. As soon as I got out of the military, I looked to my left, I looked to my right, and I noticed that our brothers and sisters getting out of the military were not getting the support that they needed. Many of our men and women who served during Vietnam, like Bob Gephardt, didn't get a hero send-off, nor did they get the ticker tape parades when they arrived back home. I said, no more. We're going to make sure that we band together with those men and women, and make sure that those who have fought for our freedom, that they know that they have a community that loves them. That's when the Wounded Warrior Project came out to augment the VFW, American Legion, TAB, and the Jewish War veterans. Over 30,000 veteran service organizations came out. My role in the state of Texas was to work with then Governor Perry, who gave me $1.6 million to catalog all of these organizations and make sure they were accessible in the 254 counties in the great country of Texas. I think the only thing that at the Battle of San Jacinto that Sam Houston did do correctly after winning, he didn't start building that wall right away, right? And I'm going to touch on the wall, but after our veterans, they get those resources, they plug into the VA, the VHA, the VBA, but if there's a resource across the street and they don't know it's there, it doesn't exist to them. So I put that system together, and it's still in place today. On the national level, I helped change the face of mental health for our veterans. Too oftentimes you hear the number 22, right? It's 22 veterans a day that go to a dark place and never come back. A lot of them are our Vietnam veterans because they don't know the resources are available to them. Now we bring those into the light and make sure that we fight for them. On the local level, I also work with tons of organizations. Rotary, which is a nonpartisan group. We host a program called Operation Turkey. We fed 8,600 people in Houston last year. Whether it was a financial issue, they didn't know how to cook a turkey, or this was the first Thanksgiving because we have so many that transition to the, until I'll get back to them, that transition to the greater Houston area because we're so diverse. I work on the local, national, and the state levels to make sure that we have a better community. I've been fighting for our community. I want to fight for you in Congress because as we look at what District 7 has become, old 7 and now new 7. Let's look at Lizzie Fletcher. She promised to do so many things. She ran as a what? Democrat, but more specifically as a moderator. That's right. She ran as a moderator because she promised so many things. She knew oil, gas, and energy was right here, and she didn't want to hack them off because that's where the money comes from, right? So she ran as a moderator. And what did she do when she got into office? She did an about face, and she turned her back on. They still voted for it. I don't get that. And so with the new district, she has to run for the 800,000 votes that are in the new 7, just as Johnny and I do as we look forward to the race in November. And so with that, she's got a big fight on her hands. It's one of the few Democrat current districts in the U.S. Congress that is flippable in the fall. It's because of the red wave, but because the numbers have changed as well. The Democrats, by the way, how many Democrats do we have in our room? What? You guys didn't bring any? We're gonna need some, I'm telling you. We laugh, we joke about it tongue in cheek. We're gonna need the soft Democrats, we're gonna need the independents, and then we need all 50 shades of red from the Republican Party. We have to come together. No longer can we have that infighting and that injustice amongst us. We have to reach that level ground and show a position of strength. We have to fight for our values. But what happens, the 2,000 miles of our southern border from San Diego to Brownsville, the 28 locations where people can just come and grow with our second greatest trade partner, we get all of these immigrants that come over. We actually have a really good system. 645,000 people each year can apply for their permanent immigrant visas, and then 3 to 5 years later, they can become a U.S. citizen. Instead, we opened up our borders, threw open our doors, and 3 million people-ish have passed in the last 16 months. We can't deal with that, folks. It's gonna bankrupt America, and it's gonna change the face of America. I don't mean the faces. I mean the way that we vote and we have our democracy. We will absolutely erode it in our Constitution along with it. It brings crime, it brings the fentanyl, it brings the elements, the human and sex trafficking. We're also #1 in that in the country. What a horrific thing. Murders and death and that sex industry is just ridiculous. This is Texas, where we're supposed to fight for our freedoms and make sure that we're standing up. Instead, Lizzie Fletcher promised that she was gonna vote against the Build Back Better bill. And then 10 days later, on that piece of paper that her and 12 others had signed, might as well just rip it up like the Constitution that they think they can do with that because she voted for that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all Democrats are bad. What I'm saying is, though, I'm tired of the two-faced talkers. I'm tired of the political lies. I wanna make sure that somebody that we elect is gonna come back here in Congressional District 7, share with our other congressmen and women, work together. We only need 5 spots to flip the House. I'm hoping that we get 7 up to 10 of them. That would be great. But what I want to make sure is that we find in CD7 that we're absolutely doing what we need to. You look at our economy right now, we're feeling the pain at the pump. But that's not where it stops, right? Your groceries go up, all the travel goes up, and everything across our spectrum. And it hurts because I see our good citizens getting into trouble. Financial trouble, and it's a huge spiral. We talked about the immigrants, the illegal immigrants, getting all of the resources. Where are the resources for our veterans, for our seniors that are stretching all of their dollars into making sure that they can take care of their families? They're one emergency away from bankruptcy, and so are we in the United States. We're 1 heartbeat away from having somebody in office with approval ratings in the low 30s. I mean, how many want our vice president as president right now? Nobody, right? So we have to fight. I need your help. This is how we win elections, with the scalpel, not the sword. We need to go through neighborhood by neighborhood, making sure that we're talking with our neighbors. We are banding together, making sure that we are voting our values. I want you to find your strength. I want you to find your voice. And I want you to vote for me on May 24th. I'm Tim Stroud, and I really appreciate you.
As you know, there's a number of candidates. We just picked the runoff candidates to be our speakers today, but there's some other folks that we had a sign-up sheet for. If you are a candidate, or representing a candidate, and you want to give a 2-minute presentation, then be sure and sign up over there. One of the most important positions in Harris County and in your senatorial district is a state Republican Executive Committee member. I've got more information from people like Sean Cheevan and Becky Green, Tom Novus, Deborah, more information than I ever got from someone that was a SD chairperson. Tonight we have, I think, just one candidate. I'd like to have him come up. Craig Latoul, would you come up and we'll give you 2 minutes to
I like being caught off guard. I live in Fort Bend County. I've been in the Fort Bend County Republican Executive Committee for about 25 years. I'm a God-fearing Reagan Republican. I grew up in Port Arthur. That's, if y'all ever see a little tick somewhere, that's probably where it came from. But anyway, I've been down there in Fort Bend County. I'm a father and a grandfather. I've got 1 granddaughter, 5 horses, a dog, and a cat. The horses are a gift to any of you who will come get them. I will throw in my truck and trailer if you will come get them tomorrow. Anyway, I want to be SREC. It's changed a lot. It's in 17 used to be real heavy in Harris County, and now it's about a large portion is still in Harris County. A large portion is in Fort Bend, and then we have 4, 5, or 6 other counties, rural counties, all the way down to Matagorda and Colorado County, that sort of thing. One of the things that Mono spoke of earlier, I'd like to speak about. I've been the engagement and outreach chair in Fort Bend County now for 3 years. We looked, and I looked around, and every one of our candidates were as white as wind-driven snow, except for Maggie Jaramillo. And we were not reaching out to any of the communities. Oh, we said we were. We said, oh, they have our values. Well, why didn't they vote for us? You know why? Because I didn't walk up to them and say, my name's Craig Latoul and I'm running for SREC. I have a woman who ran against Al Green 2 years ago, who is now she's a 38-year-old black girl. She is running against, for county commissioner in precinct 2, and she is going door to door to door. And she's talking to those independents, and she's talking to those Democrats. And you know what the woman told me? She said, all of the years I've lived in Fort Bend County, no one ever knocked on my door, not one Republican ever knocked on my door and asked for my vote. Just yesterday, I spoke to a man, said he is Muslim, and he's been in this country, been a citizen for 10 years. He said, I've never voted ever in my life except one time. Gary Gates, this old white man, he told me, this old white man, Gary Gates, knocked on my door, asked me to vote for him, and I voted for him. That's what we have to do, ladies and gentlemen. One of the reasons I want to go to the SREC, and I know my time's getting short, is because I want to bring this message to the SREC. Because I don't think we're doing a very good job of that, quite honestly. And I think you spoke to that earlier, and I appreciate that. So, please, if you live in SD 17, you'll go to the convention if you're a delegate, and you will vote. There are 2 of us running. I'm, of course, the better candidate because I'm much prettier than the other guy. And I'm much more modest, of course. Craig Latoul, SREC 7.
And let's see, James Preston. Where's James at? You gonna come up there, James? Do we have anybody else that
James Kressler. I'm here representing our Attorney General Ken Paxton, who is running for re-election in the May 24th election. However, I want you to vote May 16th through the 20th during the 1 week of early voting. So be sure to get your vote in early. Also, I'll be here for the remainder of the evening. I've got plenty of yard signs. We'd love to have your endorsement. Ken is very enthusiastic about grassroots endorsement. So you don't have to be an important elected official to endorse. He wants endorsements from everybody across the board. I have forms back there, and like I said, I will be here the entire night. Also, he has 25 lawsuits against the Biden administration currently underway, and winning record of about 90%. So we want to keep that experience to fight what the Biden administration and Democrats are trying to do to destroy our values. Also, if we go to Ken Paxton Wins, it will detail all those lawsuits and what he's doing to protect our conservative values. Thank you so much. I'll be in the back the rest of the meeting.
So I was looking for a way that we could help these candidates. There may be a little over 50 people in the room here tonight. Sometimes you get as many as 200 people in the room. But I want to see how we can reach thousands of people. And I started looking at what the other candidates were doing. And I looked at what Dan Crenshaw was doing. And I saw he was running these podcasts, and they were on YouTube and all of the different podcasts. And so I had a friend, actually he's been a friend for over 18 years, who was one of the original podcasters. Now, I didn't know what that was, and I didn't think much of it at the time. It was just another way to waste time. Turns out it's been a tremendous tool, and I'd like to take a minute of your time and introduce you to Craig Daly. Craig, stand up here and tell these folks a little bit about, you'll have to come over here because the camera can't get you.
Anyway, again, my name's Chris Daly, and I've been doing podcasting now, like Gail said, since it began. 2004 it was invented, and I'm a media guy. I've been doing marketing for 35 years, and thought I've got to check out what this thing is. Since that time, produced hundreds of shows, millions of downloads, and I thought, you know, I've built all these audiences, so why not kind of extol my virtues in my belief systems and go after, you know, our messages, the messages that we have as Republicans. So I created the Lone Star Republican Forum. In there I have a conversational style interview with you as a candidate, and we just talk about where you came from, what you believe in, you know, and all the things that that you need people to understand about you, rather than a quick soundbite. You really want to really get them to know who you are. And like I said, we do it. We talk. We get it out. iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. You know, everywhere out there. The average episode gets 20,000 downloads the first week, and they're evergreen. They're still getting downloaded. Shows I did 18 years ago are still getting downloaded, so your message stays with it forever. So I'll be back here. I'll be here all night. Feel free to come by and talk to me.
Thank you. Back to the candidates. Our next candidate, Shelley Corinne Barron.
Hi, I'm Shelley Barano. I hope you're all doing well tonight. I'm honored to be here, Gil. Thank you so very much. I'm very grateful, and I appreciate your attention. I know y'all have been here for a while. I'm not a politician. I'm a small operating business owner, and I'm a problem solver. That's what business owners do. We get up every day, we answer the phone, and we solve problems. And that's what we need. And that's why I'm the right candidate at the right time for this race. So I'm not a politician. I am not a business as usual politician. I'm a problem solver. And I'm also homegrown. You see, 133 is my home. When I was 6 days old, I was adopted, a ward of the church. Catholic Charities had given to my family. Into the greatest place on earth, 133. Brought home to Briar Grove Park. My husband and I have been married 30 years. We raise our children in 133 and our small operating businesses in 133. For those of you that don't know, it's a sacred rectangle. Highway 6 on the west, Westheimer on the south, Chimney Rock essentially on the east, and I-10 on the north. It's a sacred rectangle. It's where I'm from. And I refuse to give it up without a fight. Because in 2018, the blue wave brought a tsunami of bad ideas to Harris County. Bad ideas. And Joe Biden's election has brought an even larger tsunami of bad ideas to the United States of America. And we know it. What are those bad ideas? And why am I the right person at the right time? I have the most versatile background of any politician in this race. I'm a mother of 4. I'm an attorney. I've been a briefing attorney at the Texas Supreme Court. I've been a litigator for Andrews and Kurth. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I've served on the board of Texas Children's Hospital, Episcopal High School, where I'm the construction committee chairman, and on the Houston Museum of Natural Science, on the executive committee of the Junior League. I have been on everything from stuffing and stamping at the Village Republican Women's Club tonight to major boards and foundations in our medical center. In addition, 7 years ago I went back to work at our family's 3rd generation small business that my husband and I bought. In the last 5 years, we've been through a flood, a freeze, a pandemic, a stay-at-home order, and we're still standing. All of our employees are still employed. They still have health insurance, and they have not taken a cut in pay. Because we solve problems in our business, and we're good at what we do, and we care about the people. My job is facilities, preservation of low-income housing. What does that mean? I walk into really dangerous neighborhoods like South Union Place, Cook County, Chicago, and I go in and I fix housing that's there. And you know what? If we don't revitalize those communities, Donald Trump was right. Economic opportunity zones must be revitalized. Because if not, we lose the very heart of our inner cities. And we lose that, the rest of us are going to pay the price for that. So we have to invest in economic opportunity zones. And remember that. I only do business in the poorest communities, nowhere else. It's an important distinction. Because it's hard to walk in to a place where there's excessive gun violence, where there's gangs, when you have to stare down boyfriends that don't belong there. When you have to walk into a house of someone who's been on a drug binge for 4 days. And you have to tell them, I'm sorry, you can't stay here because you're not on the lease. I do the tough work. I've got energy, I've got tenacity, I've got grit to spare and heart. And that's why I'm the best person at the right time. The radical left has brought the murder rate, sex trafficking. I really appreciate you saying that because we're the #1 city in the nation. I'm the only one in a race of 5 qualified candidates that even talks about sex trafficking and human trafficking, bringing cartels and syndicates and crime rings and real bad guys. I had lunch with the chief of police today. He said there are 500 capital murderers out on bail. We need bail reform. We need comprehensive crime reform. We need election integrity reform. I'm an 18-year precinct chair. We've got to go back to voting in our precincts. Voting in our precincts. I did after 2003 when I became a precinct chair. And in schools, critical race theory and every vestige of it has got to go. Because they are teaching our babies. They're teaching our babies that America is not a great place. And it is happening in SBISD. Whether the politics as usual want to admit it or not, it is in every district in our state. It is in the teacher education that they're learning, and we need transparency and accountability. You know what Glenn Youngkin did in Virginia? It was a great idea. Set up a hotline so parents can call. If there are books that don't belong in the library, if there are their teachers are teaching something that shouldn't be in the classrooms. That's a great idea. And that's something the Texas legislature can lead on. We are not going to take control of local school districts, but we are going to require local school districts to be transparent, accountable, and we are going to give parents the opportunity to have a proper redress, a proper solution when there's a problem. Not to have to blow it up and have a big fight, to call the administration and say there's a problem here, let's take care of it. And requiring administrations to do that. And let's talk a second about our freedoms and the radical left. I have been surrounded in the streets when I was standing with Senator Rand Paul, who's endorsed me, for 17 minutes and held hostage by radical leftist progressive paid agitators. You can Google it. I'm standing in a red dress like I'm standing in a red coat tonight. 17 minutes, I was spit on, I was yelled at, they told me they were going to kill me, and I knew this, I was going to live or I was going to die. So I started praying. And thank God the police came and they saved us. But that motivated me. When I looked in the eye of the radical left that night, I said, absolutely not. You cannot have my country, you cannot have my city, you cannot have my county, and you cannot have my sacred rectangle. No more business as usual. We need new candidates with fresh voices. People who are willing to fight, people who are willing to lead, not people who have been in the game a long time and want it to stay the same, but people who are going to stand in there, shoulders back, and look them in the eye and say, absolutely not, George Soros. You are coming over my flaming, hot, dead body because I am a constitutional conservative. And I love my Constitution, and I will fight for her till my dying day. I am not a Navy SEAL. Thank you for your service. Thank all of you veterans for your service. I am short, but I have the heart of a lion, Stewie. I have the heart of a lion. And I am going to stand and defend my country and my Constitution with everything I've got. I can forge solutions to the problems that we have. I can legislate. And people that know are believing in me and endorsing me. Secretary of State James Baker, Bill Archer, Rand Paul, the Houston Police, the Houston Fire, the Texas State Fire, Dave Ward, Donna Horich, all have endorsed me. I have a full list of endorsements on my website because I know I'm forgetting Michael Kubosh and Mary Ann Huffman. People believe in me because they know I can get the job done. I can fight. I will fight for you. And I am not funded by special interests. My money comes from over 530 individuals because they know that I will be a lobbyist for the people. Give me a chance. I'm a new voice, but I'm going to fight like a dragon. I am going to defend my home. So let's go. Let's go.
Projector had a little slide I could put up there. There's a lot of work in putting an event like this together, and there's some people that have done yeoman's job over and above, and one of those is Iodize. He's got the toughest job because he's got to keep these candidates on time.
You're all doing very well. Congratulations.
We thank all the candidates for watching you. And then we got folks like Newell Cheatham. Newell has been doing, we do one of these every month, and he's been doing the check-in process for these all this time, so we appreciate his help. And then we are recording this, and I always keep my fingers crossed because recording will always come out best for me. But I put the best person I know to doing that, and that's my son, Trevor Stolzenberg. So let's give these folks a hand. One of the most important elections is coming up very quickly, coming up on May the 7th. And there are some constitutional points, I have asked my state representative, Mike Schofield, to take a couple minutes and tell you about those. Mike?
Almost all of you are in my district right past the front row. And I appreciate you all being here. I want you to know I've officially stopped looking for the 8% who didn't vote for me in the primary. We're bringing them on board for November, but the next election isn't in November. And the next election isn't even the one that these fine folks are running on May 24th. And make sure you all get out there and vote in that primary and give us the best candidates in November. Texas is a wonderful place, and just about everything that we hear about it or learn about it shows us again how wonderful this place is. Top of the order is the fact that you determine what's in your Constitution. The Texas Constitution, unlike most other states, has never been rewritten by a convention or a body or a group of learned professors or any of that stuff. We have the original Constitution that we adopted in 1876, which the people of Texas have amended over 400 times. You get to decide that we're never going to have a state income tax. Thank you all for voting for that. That was my amendment. You get to decide that before anybody somewhere in far west Texas can challenge a state statute that your legislature passed and throw it out, somebody has to tell the Attorney General so they can defend it. That was also mine. And we also have an 11-page constitutional amendment about refinancing your house because back in the FDR years, we were so worried that you didn't know how to manage your own finances that we didn't just put in a constitutional amendment and say, okay, you can refinance. We had to put like all the details in there. So when you have to sign like 6 and 7 documents to refinance your house, that's because your Texas legislature thought that you needed all that. But we do have 2 amendments on the ballot this coming May 7th. And early voting is, I think, Monday through Friday.
25th.
No, the 24th is the runoffs for these folks. So I'm telling you, it's a whole different election. It's April 25th to May 3rd are the early voting days. There's only one early voting location anywhere near here, and that is the Katy Branch Library on Franz Road. The second closest is the Weekly Center up in Greenhouse. So, go into Katy, do a little antiquing, have a little lunch, and then vote to amend your state constitution. The reason I want to talk to you about it is, one, most of you won't even know it was there, and you'll go into the voting in the runoffs and wonder where your constitutional amendments are, and it'll already pass. And the second is, God bless the Ledge Council. They try their hardest, and in order to make sure that they don't write the amendments in a way that biases it one way or the other, they put such gobbledygook that you can't possibly determine what the darn thing does. So I'm going to tell you very briefly. The second one is real simple. In Texas, we don't understand that there's such a thing as inflation, so we keep putting numbers in the Constitution and then have to go back and amend them every so often. So we have raised over the last few years your homestead exemption from the first $10,000 of your house to $15,000, and then to $25,000, and now Proposition 2 would raise it to $40,000. So if you would like your homestead exemption to not tax you on the first $40,000 of your house, vote yes. If for some reason you feel that you're not paying enough in property taxes and you'd like to see it stay at 25, vote no. I can tell you I'm voting yes, but you'll do what you want. The first one, if I don't tell you what it does, there is no way you're going to be able to determine the double, triple, and quadruple negatives they put in there, and limitations on limitations and just complete nonsense. So I will explain it to you in 30 seconds. What it comes down to is this. Over the years in Texas, we have given seniors certain limitations on their property taxes. And the biggest of which is for the half of the property taxes, basically, that goes to schools, they're frozen when they hit 65. The other half keeps going up. And then there's also a homestead exemption that individual localities can give. The city of Katy, for any of you who live in the city limits, has done it. I think Harris County actually has done it. A lot of places where they will give you a limitation when you hit 65. 2 sessions ago, when I wasn't in the House, they passed Senator Betancourt's bill to compress the property tax tax rates, and that's the one that doesn't let the county raise you more than 3.5% without having an election. Which, if you remember, when Cagle and Braddock boycotted the meeting, they couldn't pass the last time they could have given this unfettered increase. Now they're locked into what the bill says. The problem is the way the Constitution has been interpreted, because the seniors already had this break over here, they weren't participating in the reductions in rates that were a part of the bill. So the people who need the most help on their property taxes weren't getting any from the biggest property tax cut in the history of Texas. So if you feel that the seniors ought to be able to participate when the county has to compress their rates and lower them because of the increase in property values, if you think seniors ought to also be able to get the same deal everybody else does, vote yes on one. If you think, the heck with the seniors, we want them to all move to Arkansas, which basically is what one former county commissioner told me. So basically, they can't afford to pay it, they want to leave, to which I replied, is fundamentally not the purpose of your government to tax you out of your home. But if you think they all ought to go to Arkansas, then vote no. So again, the most important thing is early voting is the 25th of April through May 3rd is early voting, and then election day is May 7th. Find your way into Katy, or for those of you who live further east, you can find your way to the few polling places there. On election day itself, May 7th, there will be considerably more polling places, but for the early voting period, there are only 3 in my whole district of 200,000 people. Wow. Felicia's got something to say about that.
We're Tracy G. We like to see people from Katy come in to see us there at Beltway.
So if you happen to be on the Beltway for no apparent reason and want to stop by the Tracy G. Community Center where I used to vote years ago, feel free to do that. But please do vote. This is your Constitution. Unlike the federal one, which is designed to be a set of permanent first principles, this one is a basically guiding document for Texas government, and it is designed to be amended, and it's up to you to amend it. So please take the time to come and vote on your 2 constitutional amendments.
I know that Michael Kabosh thinks that I think he's my favorite city councilman, but that's not entirely true. It's the guy that wears a hat, Mike Knopf, and I'm going to ask him to say a word or two. I told you a little bit about the great job that Deborah Pike was doing as an SREC member. I want her to say speak a minute or two, and also Judge Bruce Bain. But we want to go ahead with our candidates because they're on the schedule right now, and we're going to have to slip these others in just a minute. So we want to call on our next candidate, Alexandra Delma Bailey.
So good evening, and when I'm county judge, I want to make Harris County the place where the best and the brightest want to move to build their careers, start their businesses, and raise their families. Because that's why my family, my husband and I, we moved down here. Because no other place has represented the American dream the way that Harris County has. And right now, unfortunately, it's under attack. Like you, we've all seen the devastating changes to our community. We have a crisis in our streets, a crisis in our elections, and a crisis in our jails. And what is so clear is that now is the time that we do have to stand our ground and fight. We may not have another 4 years to turn back these policies, and that's why it's so important that you, the voters, get to choose. Who do you trust to end the corruption? Who do you trust to lead with integrity and return our county so it is the model for the nation that it has always been? We can all talk about our qualifications. I just say when you're trying to look at how we're running our campaigns. In my campaign, I focused on trying to get people excited about good conservative governance. I haven't focused on the other candidates. I've tried to prove why our way is so much better and drag everyone I can along with me to unify our party. So the first step I did was I unified first responders. Every significant law enforcement group has gotten behind me, and we're working together to develop a full, holistic plan to tackle crime. So whether it's the sheriff deputies, Houston police, even Houston fire, got them to stand next to each other, as well as all of our conservative constables, Constable Herman, Constable Ted Heath, and Constable Sandlin. We're all unified together And now the next part is our party. And I'm very proud that the real engine and workhorse of my party have been precinct chairs. We started with grassroots. We're going to continue to govern for the people, not for special interests, and keep running on traditional conservative values. Now, if you ask how I did this and got people excited, it's by being able to lead and organize. Show everyone that even without name ID, without the most funding, you can outwork, out-hustle, knock on more doors than your next person, because that's how we win. There's always going to be more Zuckerbucks, more special interests, but it's our ability to show that there is a better way. Fundamentally, I believe that most people know their life is not better. Sadly, everyone here, if you raise your hand, you probably know someone who had a catalytic converter stolen. If not, and that doesn't even get to the violent crime that's dedicating our streets. So let's just talk about this. We know what the problems are. We all agree. Who's the person you trust with the solutions? So I've developed the mission mindset. I started my career in the military. I went to West Point and I chose to join the Army Bomb Squad. I didn't do that because that was the easiest or the most popular decision. I did it because it was the most impactful, most challenging career that I could go tackle. And I did that. I built a company from scratch. You typically get a year to deploy a unit to Afghanistan. We did it in 4 months. Everything from how many batteries to how many machine guns. Learned how to develop a training calendar. How do you build teams? When I was in theater, proved that I could be calm under pressure. This is going to be one of the most high visibility races. You can look at our debates, pick who you think is going to hold up under pressure. And then while in Afghanistan, proved that I could tackle a dysfunctional organization. So 600 people, 800 at the peak, as people moved in and out of theater across 40 remote locations. First time in that unit's tenure history, we established accountability. We were losing rifles. That raises attention to a 3-star general. So I know what it's like to have scrutiny, to go into a broken organization and have to fix it quickly. And I hope here today to earn your vote. What we're going to do is keep growing the party, get everyone excited about good conservative governance, because anyone can tear somebody down, give them a reason to vote against something, but can you get people motivated to vote for something? Get them to get out of your seat. This is a voter turnout game. We are running against one of the most unpopular presidents in history. This is our time. I'm ready to fight with you, and I hope to earn your vote. Thank you.
Good to see y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. 17, y'all can applaud now. Whew, that's a tough crowd. September 17th, 1787. Come with me to Philadelphia. They've been working that Constitution for 4 months. Finally, after all the arguing, they finally came to an agreement. George Washington was the president of the Constitutional Convention. He gets up from the big chair. He had sat there the 4 months in silence, but he sat there. When he stood up to go sign the Constitution, Ben Franklin noticed the chair he was sitting in. There was a carving in that chair that he had been staring at every time Washington wasn't there. When Washington signed the Constitution, Ben Franklin rose to address the group. And he said, "Sirs, I've been looking at that chair for 4 months. And when General Washington signed the Constitution, I think I finally got the answer to my question. On the back of that chair was a picture of a sun and a horizon. Franklin said, I couldn't tell when we began this if the sun was rising or the sun was setting on our nation. He goes, today I know the sun is rising. I say to you today, my concern, and I think the reason you're so energized, is we are fearful the sun is setting. I woke up this morning, I do my prayer time, I'm a pastor by trade, I was an accountant for Shell, I'm a rancher. But I woke up this morning, I was thinking about retirement. Any of you thinking about retirement? How many of you are retired? Any retirees? Are you glad you're retired or do you regret it? Regret. I want to tell you, and most groups me and Brother Tim have gone to, most people say, I hate it. Let me tell you what I'm fearful of. I'm afraid that our nation is retiring. Think about it for a minute. When you retire, quit working. Have you noticed California now wants to cut the work week from 40 hours to 32 hours? Have you noticed these young up-and-comers in college, now they want to work for less hours, more benefits, and stay home a whole lot more? Have you noticed the COVID retirement plan? How many people didn't go back to work? They say the unemployment level is low. It's only low because they recalibrated it. When you retire, you actually quit making money and you start spending the money you got. Have you noticed that our nation has spent all the money we got, and now we've borrowed $30 trillion? The Biden budget this year adds another $1.8 trillion to it. When you retire, you stop setting money back, you start pulling money down. Have you noticed when you retire, you find yourself spoiling the grandkids? In fact, the parents hate your guts because you're spoiling their kids. Our nation is spoiling the generations of our youngsters. We're spoiling them in that in our schools, we're not even teaching them math or science. We don't send them home with homework because the teachers say they won't do it. And instead we teach them critical race theory. We teach them about sex changes. We give them a time, they do all these baby reveals. Have you ever been to a baby reveal? That's while the baby's in the womb. Now we got baby reveals in 9th grade. It's nuts what we see. When you retire, you quit getting up at a certain time, you get real lax with your schedule. Have you noticed how lax we've gotten with our military? Our Navy, I read this morning, they're borrowing parts from other ships just to keep ships on the water. Our airplanes are supposed to be at an 85% readiness, now they're at 60%. Do you not think for a minute perhaps our country has decided we're just going to retire from the world stage? I want to tell you today, we have seen those who are retired more vulnerable to crime. My catalytic murder was stolen. I thought Tim did it, and we saw the video. We loved him. In fact, the guy who stole it went through the drive-thru and bought barbecue after he stole my burger. Thank you, James Pressler. And so, when you're older and you're retiring, you're more susceptible to crime. We're seeing crime on an all-time high. I want to close, and I'm going to be pretty quick. You did very good with your time, and I'm going to try to do the same. I don't want us to retire. I want us to go back to mourning. I want to play a video for you real quick. You may not be able to hear it. That was the greatest campaign video ever played. It's Morning in America. I want it to be Morning in America again. In 1978, our gas prices were high then. They're much higher now. In 1978, our inflation rate was astronomical. It's higher now. You look at the marriage rate when Reagan came into office. The marriage rate was in great decline. More people were living together, morals were loose, and it seemed like we completely lost our way. But in a matter of 4 years, under good, strong leadership, inflation came down, gas prices came down, jobs were starting, and marriage rates went up dramatically. I want to get back to mourning in America again. I don't believe we should be retiring, not as a nation. So what do? We audit randomly every election, make sure for voter integrity. What do? We balance that budget. We forecast what tax revenues will be. We budget off that with a percent paying off our debt, because we gotta pay back our debt. We gotta control the borders. 1 million came across the last 6 months. There are 10 major cities only in the U.S. with 1 million or more. We're letting in whole cities come into this nation. We gotta build up our national defense. Russia is invading Ukraine, China's threatening Taiwan, and our military has got to be built back up. And then we got to get back to parents have the primary say in the education of their children. And then last but not least, which is not real popular with some of the people who are already in office, I do believe in term limits. 8 years, get the heck out. Live under the laws you pass. It ought to be a servant's job, not a lordship job. So I'm Dr. Johnny T. I'm running to be your congressional candidate in 7, and we are going to beat Lindsey Fletcher.
School boards are so important. We just saw that in the Cy-Fair district with the great challenge there that Bill Eli that you're going to hear from him in just a minute. But we want to do that again in Katy Independent School District. Victor Perez.
People, my name is Victor Perez, and I'm running for Katy ISD School Board Position 1. And there is another election on May 7th. And another election was early voting on the 25th, this coming Monday, through the 3rd. And that's school board in Katy. And there are places to vote, early vote. I just want to get that out at the beginning. And that's Taylor High School, by Seven Lakes High School, Cinco Ranch High School, Leonard Barrel Center, and also Mont Ranch High School. So I wanted to get that out there right at the beginning. I feel like people have already mentioned some of the things pertinent to my race. Number one, I was born in Cuba. And I also was born in Cuba, and I fled communism with my parents when I was 7. Everybody's talked about the schools and problems with the schools and CRT and inappropriate material in the classrooms and the libraries. And also, we've talked now about people that are retired. Well, I'm retired, but I'm running for school board. So, I was born in Cuba, and when I was 7 years old, my family fled communist Cuba. We came to South Florida. I was raised in Hialeah, Florida, with my parents there, and so, I love this country. And I want to really give back to this country, and I've always been involved in nonprofits and volunteering and so on. Anyway, I went to Virginia Tech from South Florida on a football scholarship. There I met my bride of 47 years, Karen, she's here, and my partner in this race and partner in everything. We came to Texas, and I got an MBA in finance from UT Arlington. And I spent 12 years as a commercial banker in the energy business and as an energy lender, if you will, dealing with a lot of independents and the oil and gas industry, so I know the energy industry. I then joined an oil service company, and I just recently retired from my 25 years as a CFO for a couple of public energy service companies. So I'm very familiar with boards. I've been around boards, public company boards. I've also been on several nonprofit boards, so I know a lot about boards, about governance on boards, and what boards do. And boards, number one thing that boards do is they look over the CEO or the superintendent. The superintendent does not look over the board, okay? The board is ultimately responsible for delivering the quality educational product to the people of Katy, to the kids. It's not the other way around. Somehow we've gotten the impression that the board has no power. The board that we have now approves everything 7-0. There's no asking the hard questions. So the board has the responsibility. And so I intend to be active, very active as a board member. I want to ask the difficult questions, which our board is not doing currently. As I mentioned, I retired about 2 or 3 years ago. I've always been involved in a lot of nonprofits and volunteering activities, both at church is the nonprofit that has the mobile pregnancy centers outside of Planned Parenthood. We've got 3 of those, actually 2, and the 3rd one is now being delivered. And I was also on the board of the West Houston Pregnancy Help Center in Katy. So pro-life is a passion for us. We raised our 3 kids in Katy. In fact, they all graduated from Taylor High School. They all went to schools around here, Memorial Parkway Junior High, Beck Junior High, Patterson Elementary School, etc. Our daughter, we have 8 grandkids. Our daughter married a Katy High School football player after college, and they live in Pine Mill Ranch over there near Cinco Ranch. And so I've got 4 grandkids. We have 4 grandkids here in Katy schools. KISD, they're in Katy, so I've got skin in the game with these kids. And I'm concerned about, I see what's happened with our older nephews and nieces, about basically the indoctrination that they've gone through, and now they're in their 20s, and I can see the result of them going through schools and college and so on, and then you just see it. So I'm concerned about our children. I'm concerned about these grandkids. And I know our daughter generation, she's in her mid to late 30s. I see these moms and I see their kids, and I want to look out for them. And that's why I'm running for Katy School Board. I started going to the board meetings to speak out sometime last year. I've been to a number of board meetings to really speak out against critical race theory. I've been giving the board several lectures, if you will, like we call them primers, about critical race theory, so that they know what the heck it is. And it's not out there just says, kids, today we're going to learn about critical race theory. No, it's not like that. It's embedded. It's under the radar. And so I've been speaking out about critical race theory. I've also been speaking out about the inappropriate materials, harmful materials that are getting into the schools. Karen was one of the ladies that spoke and read some of the nasty books and actually got on national TV. So we've been going to the school boards to speak out against the books, and just improper, totally pervasively vulgar materials getting into schools. And the board that I see today is just sitting there like everything just goes through, and we need to put a stop to it. So I'm against critical race theory, and I am in favor, I'm against the early sexualization of kids. That is not the role of the schools, okay? The parents have a preeminent role to teach their kids about morals and values. That is strictly the parents, not the schools. And so I will fight any effort for the early sexualization of kids. So, for example, last week or a week or so ago, a survey went out by from KISD to junior high and high schoolers, and which was a bullying survey. But in there, the survey had questions related to: do you feel like you're bullied because of your sexual orientation or your sexual identity? That shouldn't even be brought up to the kids, especially like in junior high school. That is outrageous. That shouldn't be happening. So I am running because I don't feel like the parents are getting heard. And that's why I'm running. The parents are not getting heard. I want to be a voice for the community. I want to be an advocate. I want to be responsive to parents. And also a big thing that I'm talking about a lot is teachers. We need to help our teachers. Our teachers are underpaid, they're overworked, they need help in the classroom, they need assistance, be laser focused with the administration to support our frontline campus leaders, our frontline teachers, not just give them more and more work. And the assistant principals and the principals need to be laser focused on helping them with discipline issues. So I need your help. I mean, our election is coming up right now on Monday, and May 7th. So I just need your help, and hopefully you vote for me. And we're out there working right now, knocking on doors. It's crazy. I've never done this before. It's a lot of fun, actually, but we're working real hard.
It's wonderful to have great candidates like this. But now, put it on your calendar for May the 12th. It'll be right here in this building. And I asked him to spend just a few minutes tonight to give you kind of an overview of what he's going to be talking about. Bill?
Thank you. Thanks for the reminder that we could blank on that date. How many, let me see, how many folks in here, I'm guessing with the group, is a lot of folks have knocked on doors, right? Heard the gentleman back here say, right? So I somehow got suckered into being the training development chair for Harris County. I stepped away from that because my passion is really election integrity. But when I started in that, I said, well, what did I do? Because in my precinct, I've got about 6,000 voters, just 2,700 homes. That's been cut in half with the boundaries, redistricting. But you know how long it would take me, a single precinct chair, to walk my precinct?
How many doors?
About 2,500.
You can realistically 60 to 80 a day.
If you're talking about all those, right? So my point is, I can't cover that in 6 months, right? I have a job. I mean, it takes a long time. So the point is it's training development chair, but I have almost 80% of my streets have block captains, right? Folks that come up and help me get out the vote in my precinct. And when you talk to those folks, they know who I am, don't they? Right? So the concept was for me is how do I scale this? Because I'm a firm believer. I'm very blessed where I live, very Republican area. It's largely safe doors. But we do not turn the county red again unless we can get folks active in other precincts where aren't as blessed as many Republicans. So I dreamt up this thing. It's called ground fire, right? Ground fire is just block walking. That's all it is. And the idea was, how do I train new chairs? How many folks in here like to block walk? Right? So not as many hands as we need. Most people don't. I don't care to do it. I don't like to block walk. Right? But we don't save our community. We don't save our churches. We don't save our county. We don't save our country by sitting on my couch. So this program, and again, we'll cover it a little bit, and we're blessed here because a lot of the technology, it's certainly far from perfect. I think our competition is probably 10 years ahead of us on the data and stuff, but Russ Long has kind of helped us democratize the data, with Campaign Sidekick, for who's familiar with that technology, or Advantage. I mean, there's different apps, that kind of thing, but Campaign Sidekick has made a lot of this a lot easier. But the idea is that, how do I democratize this to all my block captains? Or how do I democratize this in a way that I can, if I get guidance from Russ Long or from Cindy Siegel that tells us what precincts matter, right? We've got 500 precincts in Harris County that do not have a chair. Well, they're not all the same in terms of weight and importance. So tell us which ones are priorities. How many of those precincts that have a precinct chair, the precinct chair does not know what to do? They've never done it before. So we dreamt up this program, and the idea is if someone raised their hand, a new precinct chair, hey Bill, I've never block walked before, boom, we'll target your precinct. We are going to your precinct, we're going to show up on that Saturday, and at that time we had, Russ Long had a date, folks that were just signing up to volunteer, 500 volunteers. Right now we got about 500 precinct chairs. That's 1,000 people. If I could get 10%, 100 people, so you guys, you're running campaigns, if you had 100 block walkers, how many right? That's a blessing, is it not? Now, if you had 100 block walkers, and they did it, they would only have to repeat that cycle once every 2.5 months. Now, just volunteer one weekend. And we, as a party, could have 100 volunteers block walking every single weekend. Right, so that's where this idea was dreamt up. We haven't built up to the volume. I got pulled into the Sci-Fair race, but we did this program in Sci-Fair. And the data shows it. So we took over all 3 seats that were on that ballot. We're going to go after the remaining 4 of the next ballot because we're still in a minority in that school board. But if you look at those precincts, the average turnout in Sci-Fair was less than 8%, right? Which is kind of the historical average. It's a little bit higher than the historical average. With CRT and that kind of stuff, more people are coming out to vote. But the precincts we targeted and we block walked, the high end was 25% turnout. Right, average for the precincts that we block walked were 18% turnout. Again, the average in the whole district is 8%. So it made a huge difference. That's why we won those elections. So my point is, so this whole program, Ralph, I'm not going to go in this. I guess I'm already suckered into a date coming up. But the idea is really to teach folks how to do the block walking.
And we don't need Russ Long's data anymore. We can get it from RPT. They serve it up to us nicely in the map. And one thing that's kind of nice about this, because we couldn't really do this effectively with Russ's data or even with Advantage, is now we can get the reports back that night. So you can get, you can work with Taylor Tellez is the rep from RPT that supports our area. You can create, they haven't given us the authority or the delegation permissions in the app to create our own surveys, but you can work with them, right? So basically, as a chair, what I want an email. I want a phone number. I want to know, does this person care enough to maybe provide some time? Would they be a poll watcher? Would they be willing to work as a clerk? Right? Would they be willing to come to a monthly meeting? If I can just get some basic information, I can start to build a base, a foundation in my precinct. Right? And then I got some volunteers. I build my distribution list. So that's really what this was. And so just a couple results. And just a couple things, right? So what we did in this program, and we did this for about 2 months again before I got pulled in to really help on the side-fair race, is we hit Greens Point. We hit Missouri City. Right? We hit, these were 85% Democrats. Right? You know what happened when we knocked on a Democrat door? What did they say to us? Or when we knocked on a Republican door? At this point, we're trying to grow the base. We're not trying to have fights, right? So we were targeting the 20% or less, 15%. Well, when we knocked on a Republican's door, what did they tell us? What did they tell you?
Nobody ever talked about it.
Where the hell have you been? Right? So the Republicans, there's so few of them, they don't know where they are. We just need to help to create the dots and connect the people in their own communities, on their own street. And that's where we can kind of democratize it. And the challenge will be is having the right leadership in the party. We're working on that. In fact, I'm meeting with Casey this Friday. We're talking about to lay out a schedule. Because another thing that really irks me is that when I get an email on Thursday or Friday before Saturday, say, hey, we're going to block walk. Well, guys, we need to plan a little bit. Guys, we know we have an election coming up in November. Why don't we have a schedule that provides 4 block walking opportunities every single Saturday from now to November? Right? And if we're not recruiting a precinct chair, if we're not recruiting precinct chair teams, we are recruiting poll watchers. We are recruiting clerks. We should knock out and have an opportunity at least 4 different places in the county every single week. That's a schedule. We're going to work on that. We're going to try to work with counties and other leadership to try to help us target. Maybe it's Commissioner Precinct 2 is where we should focus. We have limited resources, so we can't, knock on all the doors. But if we focus in certain areas, we can help the candidates that are running. Right, we can help build up a base, precinct chairs in certain areas where we're in the margins that we can win those races. But I guess that's all for now. Gail, come back to the next month, I guess.
I wanted to just have a little preview of what's going to happen next month. That's going to be a fantastic training result. Look forward to that.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
So, since our race is right now, the 25th to the 3rd, and then May 7th, we need poll watchers. And anybody wants to volunteer to be a poll watcher for KISD, that nice lady right there, Kristen McCarty.
And I'll assign you. I'm assigning poll watchers right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Sorry.
So I just want to give you guys a little bit of information on dates. Hopefully you've got these all pinned down. The 7th, May 24th, June 16th, and May the 12th. Be sure to put that one down. That's our Conservative Leaders Forum. I couldn't help it. It's the only time I can get the venue. But tonight was Weekly Fire, so some of you folks skipped Weekly Fire to come here. Hope you get the rerun on it. There's some precinct teams. There's a number of them all over. I'm just going to a couple of them here for you. The Katy precinct team will be April the 30th. I think James, would you hold your hand up there? Contact James Clayton so you can get in touch with that. And then Dave Lampfield on this other one that's been running for a number of times. I already told you about May the 12th there. And I want to thank you for attending. Would you agree to take just 5 or 6 minutes more?
Sure.
And let me hear from Deborah and from Mike and from Justice Bain. So, Deborah, would you just come forward? Okay. We're going to give her 2 minutes, Pat, so She talks quickly.
Okay, awesome. Wave at me. Hi, it has been an honor to serve as D7 as a state Republican executive committee woman for the last 2 years. And I served on the Candidate Resource Committee, which is so important because we need to get our judges elected, raising money. I served on the Election Integrity Committee, which is huge. And to my heart was the Legislative Priority Committee. And so positive news there. In our 87th legislative session, we passed into law a ban on critical race theory. It is against the law. Critical race theory. I'm running again because I hope that we can strengthen it with transparency for parents in the bill. We need to strengthen it that, and we need to take funding out of teachers that might come back in and try to put it back in. We passed the heartbeat bill, which is huge. I mean, we've been fighting for that. We passed constitutional carry, fighting for that for 19 years. And we passed the election integrity bill. We do need to come back with that one and work a little bit harder and put stronger penalties and weigh in more on stopping the unrequested mail-in ballots. So, and then as a plus, we also passed the women's sports bill, where biological men that think they're women or want to be women are still in a man's body, and they cannot compete with women from the high school level. I think I'm getting cut off here, but I think I've done my 2 minutes. Oh, and we need to pass. I want to work on banning the employer-mandated vaccines. I held a press conference. Thank you so much.
I've seen that hat come off once in a while. City's on there most of the time. Mike Knox, City Council.
Well, I'll take it off so that people can recognize me when I'm not wearing it. My name is Mike Knox. I'm an at-large city council member for the city of Houston. I'm a little outside my zone here, but I have a night pass. They let me out of the city for a little while. I do also happen to be a resident of Harris County, and so the activities in Harris County do interest me. I want to share something with you about the sexualization of children and a lot of things we've been talking about. It's kind of a funny thing that I saw not too long ago where a guy was explaining he was really having difficulty talking about the birds and the bees with his children, because in the old days you just had to talk about birds and bees. Well, now you have to talk about birds and bees and bees and bees and birds and birds and bees who look like birds and birds who dress like bees, and it's just like, oh, this is what the left has done to America. Confusing our young people so they don't know up from down and left from right. And this is why support groups like this meet. I'm happy to be a conservative representative on council. It's difficult, as you might imagine, to be one of 4 conservatives on a 16-member city council member. A lot of times I feel a lot like Don Quixote. I'm just pitching at windmills, trying my best to see what happens. But it's something I believe in, just like all of you. You know, God has a plan for everybody. I know that personally, and I think He has a plan for this country. I think He's allowed the Bidens and the Democrats to take over this country for a short period of time to give us a glimpse of our future under the continued incremental erosion of our values. They've gone over the top. The frog realizes the water's getting hot right now. And so we're motivated to get out of the pot and go find another place to be. So I think it's been a good thing. I like to think in positive terms. These problems that we're dealing right now are a wake-up call for us. I think we're getting the message. We have, in the Republican Party, we have a bench of candidates. All of these ones here and all the other ones that we're dealing with in this election cycle, we have so many qualified candidates for all the offices that are being held, the Democrats have zero bench. They've got their people that are in office right now, and that's it. So, at any rate, keep up the good fight. I know I'm a little out of my territory, but I'm with you in spirit, and I'm with you in person. God bless you all, and have a great
And let's see, Justice Bruce Payne, you step forward.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bruce Payne, and I'm your nominee for the 269th State District Court of Harris County. What does that mean? Unlike state reps and everybody else, the 269th District Court just means it's the number of the court created in Texas based on population. We have 60 district judges in Harris County. Half of them are up for election. So you have a long ballot to go through. There are 0 Republican judges down there at the courthouse right now. 0. So I am, as I'm last here, on what's called the down ballot. We are the people that are at the end of the ballot people forget about. I don't know you. You're a state district judge. I don't know you. I'm not going to vote for you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are your nominee. We deserve your vote. Each and every one of us. A failure to vote for us as a state district judge is a guaranteed Democratic vote. Same for every other candidate in this room. You have to do it. I'll give you a cheat sheet. Because we have a Republican governor, every R is on the top of the ballot. You get to my race, just hit the top name. It's an R. Keep going all the way down. You've got a lot of pages to go to. As I tell some of my people, you get back to your childhood, you can put your left hand over your eye, think you're a pirate, and go R all the way down the ballot. But we need your vote. We really do, because if we don't all get elected, we can't change what's going down there. Civil side or the criminal side, because they vote in blocks. So it's exceptionally important that you tell everybody out there, I may not know that judge, but that judge deserves my vote. We need your help. Thank you.
So now it's my time to thank you guys. I appreciate each and every one of you for being out here. I miss somebody. One of the most important people in our team in putting these monthly events together is the individual who's in charge of getting the venue for us. That's Miss Felicia Craven. Let's get We're going to take a quick picture of the front row. If you'll come back behind me here in 10, and we'll shut down the recording for